everybody. Lorenz Dean here on behalf of Don Devine Media, and this is another Coliseum Culture Legend Insider. And back again with Dan the Beast Severn. How you doing, Dan?
Hello.
All right. So I wanted to ask you a question. There was an interesting rivalry that you've had with one Owen Hart. So I want to start to the very first time you and Owen Hart like shared. I'm not going to say the squared circle, but as far as work together in a particular match. And that was something that you could find on YouTube. And it was done in Calgary. And it was a basement match. Is it safe for me to say a basement match that happened in the dungeon? In
In,
they
in,
called
in
it the
the in the actual dungeon now, I believe, and you may have to correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe that the Hart residence did go up for sale because I do believe that that I think I'm pretty sure that both parents have passed on or um, and the place has been sold. So I you may want to check that for facts, fact check that. But
okay.
I just know that it was cool to be. I had heard about the dungeon many, many times, and that it was like the factory where a lot of great professional wrestlers came out of. But these were wrestlers that had shooting capabilities, which means they had legitimate skills. They could wrestle, they could shoot, they they had it all going for them, and they had the seal of approval, you know, from Stu Hart, and that meant a lot.
Right, right. So how was it? Okay, how was it before that match had the preparation? Did they work out the match, or was it just straight up like
Oh no
let's
no
make
no!
it happen?
They were they being meaning Ken and Owen. They were down in the dungeon there for probably a good, I'll say, 45 minutes to an hour, going over all the different things that they could put together. But then also you had a cameraman that was trying to see how do we set up the lights, how do we set up our camera shooting angles, where do we put up our sound devices so we can capture the sound of this. So there was a lot of preparation work. I mean, and me, all I had to do was simply, I was sitting up in the living room and basically listening to Stu Hart talk and going into background. And someone must have told him a little bit about myself before I ever got there. And because he was asking me about some of my shooter background, realistic type of background, and I was just simply just answering his questions, stuff like that. But he was just very inquisitive. And then even after that time frame, somewhere in the next couple weeks, I bumped into Owen again at one of the next Monday Night Raw shows or Tuesday night tapings, and his father gave him a T-shirt. It was an Owen Hart shirt, but it had the signature of Stu Hart on it, and he gave it uh, to Owen to give to me as a present from him. So that was like, wow. Because I mean, Owen said his dad never does nothing like that. So I mean,
Oh
I
wow.
must I must have made a good impression on to him is what I'm trying to
And
say here.
he definitely respected your background still. So let me ask you something. Did he try to stretch you out? Like he was notorious for when them young guys came downstairs. Well, a lot of them used to talk a lot of crap and want to boast and talk how they could do this, they could do that. So he used to just stay quietly and say, "Okay, so you want to come downstairs and show the old man what you can
Yeah,
do."
there you
And
go.
next thing you hear these kids
You
screaming.
got the lingo. You got the lingo going right there now. Now that speech and stuff like that. No, I mean, nothing like that ever came up. Um, again, I was to be, I was being very respectful. The same way I would be like to my own parents and stuff like that. I just, again, just being brought up the way I was brought up. I just always was very respectful for people that are older than what you are, and referring to them as sir and things of that nature. And I think he might even caught on to that aspect of how polite, well mannered, and that the beast was housebroken even. Didn't have no accidents.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so now that match happened. What were your thoughts as you started refereeing that match, as
Oh
far as
no, again,
between those two?
well, just refereeing the match alone. I mean, it was like because it's the first time I'm really seeing this happen. Um, there was, I mean, obviously there's going to be a segment in there where I'm going to get hit. I'm going to get knocked out. So they cued me into that. But, I don't have to be in tune to everything they're going to do. I just simply have to
Right.
know just the key elements is I'm a referee. You know, if it was a referee in a normal professional match, there's a lot more things I could have done. This was no ring. This wasn't the norm. So it was, like I said, they just wanted me sort of be a little bit disinterested in, and hopefully that they kind of kill each other in the process. You know, again, that's the whole angle that I was looking to try to portray with this, and even be a little bit slow to get down for pinfalls, and even counting a little bit on the slower side, just so that they could kick out each other, just so that they could continue with the carnage with each other.
I got you. I got you. So, based upon how that matchup went, did you feel like that's something that should have been duplicated? Maybe they could have done a pay-per-view event with a couple of more matches, or just instead of having it in the ring, call it the Hearts Dungeon pay-per-view event, and then having this matchup. Did you think it had that
Well,
type
I
of
mean,
effect, or it was a one and
they
done?
did. There was a part two to this. I mean, there was a match. So actually the Stu Hart residence in the basement, but then there was a Lions Den match that took place. Now this was a fabrication in, golly, where were we at now? I'm trying to think here right now. We were at a pay-per-view show, but where the rest of the WWF show was taking place, that was in the main arena with the big crowd, and where we were at was like a little auxiliary gym with like a little strange looking type cage, and all it
Right.
was there's no crowd. All it was just Owen, Ken, and myself,
Oh wow.
and that was it. So it was again kind of a strange setup, but at the same time, it kind of made sense for this rivalry between the two of them. Because first it was Owen wanting to do a dungeon match, and then no, Ken wanted to come back with a Lions Den type of match. So again, it made sense in the wacky world of professional wrestling sense. Okay, that's probably the best way for me to put it.
It almost made you feel like, well, I'm sure they understood the value of having fans there because I'm sure they felt every bump, every hit, everything. It was more painful than doing it in the ring. I mean, besides doing it in a basement or in a supposedly quote
Yeah.
unquote dungeon, and you have nothing but pure cement walls and everything like that.
Yeah,
But just the
the
fact that there
dungeon.
was no fans.
Yeah, the dungeon was actually a very stiff environment because I mean it was padded walls, but not real thick padding, and not a real big thick padding on the floor. But even in this cage match that they had, the
Hmm.
Lions Den match, the cage match, the floor was not that kind either. Now, I'm sure they probably didn't mind. They probably didn't mind being whipped into the cage walls as much because at least it's something to hit up into them, and if they hit out into middle between bars, then there's a little bit more bounce factor to it. A lot of people don't understand about that bounce factor, and I even utilize that in some of my. I mean, I'm talking about I utilized that bounce factor in some of my real cage fights in the UFC and for other promotions, knowing that if I jam them in there real quick, that's going to be like a springboard trampoline type of thing. They'll come into me, and then I can throw a quick little lateral drop, belly to belly, headlock, something that I can use to where now it gives me a little bit more momentum. That's all. Again,
Got you.
I always try to tell
Got you.
people I'm a thinker there, Frank. I'm a thinker. It's just like, how do I use? Because I think I've told you before that I only ever did 2 training camps in a 20-year career. How is that possible? And that's where again I keep coming back to that because I want people to understand. Find anybody else can make that statement. I ran practices, but running a practice versus simply just selfishly looking for training for myself. Only twice did I ever leave my family behind and trained, and I basically set 2 different records for the UFC for being in the UFC during the 8-man tournament format for the shortest period of time of taking out 3 men, because women weren't competing at that time yet. And then being in the cage for the longest time, for being in the cage just over 1 hour between my 3 opponents, and that was in Denver, Colorado, mile high elevation. So again, that's saying something when to do 2 different extremes like that. And again, 2 training camps, 20 years, and I wasn't a young spry buck like they all were. I started at basically 37 and went for 20 years.
Oh wow, impressive,
Yeah.
impressive, impressive.
And even
So
then, when I did finally retire, I'm thinking about retiring. Any promoter or promotion is thinking about booking me, better do it within a certain time frame, because after that I will be throwing the towel in. And I go, but I retired with a clause. I simply said, okay, I will be retiring now, but if a company comes up with a possible match, I gave them 3 names. I said, if if you're able to get a Ken Shamrock, a Mark Coleman, um, or Hoist Gracie, I mean, if you're able to get one of those 3 within a certain time frame of me, I would seriously contemplate coming back out of retirement, just depending on how old, how fat am I at that time. Because I mean, if I'm too far gone, no, I'm not going to come out and embarrass myself. It's you know, and again, that's where there'll be some people that will watch this interview right now and they're like, well, but again, I don't care how good you were at one time. You'll be at the pinnacle of your peak that one time. And Father Time has a way of eroding it away. What you once were
Peter,
able to do, you no longer can do.
right? You're right, hundred
But
percent right.
but you'll have all kinds of these armchair quarterbacks. They'll be like, oh, no, and then make a dude, they're sitting back there with that one enormous ab from overindulging and not doing any work. Because again, I'm not trying to be mean or cruel, but you do have a lot of keyboard warriors. They have overactive, skinny fingers, but that's the only thing that's
Oh yeah,
skinny on them.
oh yeah, you're 100% right,
Yeah,
100% right.
the haters out there.
So okay, so now we moving to the actual match as far as with you and Owen. How was that match presented to you? Like, how did you guys ever started locking up? How did that match happen between you
Well,
guys?
again, the company WWE already. I mean, this was their preconceived idea. Now it's up to the talent really to come up with a match. I mean, the creative just comes up with various types of storylines, but it's kind of like now it's just up to you and I, Frank, there to make the magic happen. If it's you that's going to be going over, basically what we have to know is how much time do we have for a match, because you can't go overtime. If anything, you'd rather cut it just a little bit short, because when you start looking at wrestlers' entrances, if they're cutting promos, and then they have to put the match, if there's any post-match promos, there's each show that they have, it's always promoting the next pay-per-view. I will see you at whatever that show is at. I'm
Right.
calling you out and blah blah blah. So each show, there's a show, but then each of the show somehow is building up to the monthly pay-per-views, because that's when
Correct.
they really cash in. Yeah, they're making money for the shows, but they really cash in on the big time pay-per-views is where they're really going to cash in on at. And knowing though that also Hoyle's rule of thumb that something can and will go wrong,
Mhm.
someone's going to get hurt between now and that pay-per-view. The rest of
Correct.
the show goes on, but if you get hurt, now they have to come up with an idea of, okay, you're hurt now, you can't go on, and how do we bring somebody in else to start up a feud with this other person? Or do we bring in an entire match that they weren't expecting altogether? I mean, it's both the WWE and the UFC, they are both very well-oiled machines. Like the UFC, they can have someone, they have people now that they're prepped and ready to know that this person may not make weight. But if they don't make weight, they're going to get dinged, and they're going to get dinged pretty good on their money.
Correct.
Someone could get either sick or injured in the final few days, and they need to get a last second replacement. It's like I said, the UFC and WWE, they're both very well-oiled machines because they've been there, done that, so they always are having a couple people on notice. In the event of, be ready. We'll bring you in,
Correct.
have you at the show, we'll take care of you and these kinds of things. But, we just don't know if, this guy's coming from a tough pull of weight. Well, he kind of got his knee bummed up in practice a few weeks ago. We don't, not certain where he's going to be at. I mean, you just have to be like the devil's advocate. You have to look at what's going to go wrong and prepare, knowing that, okay, we didn't need you. Better to have you than not need you, than as opposed to wish we had you and not have you.
Yep. 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 Okay. So, what was the conversation like before the matchup between you and Owen in the locker room? Like
No,
the
just
preparation.
fine, just fine for all. Everything was cool. I mean, talking to the, I knew what was supposed to happen, that he's going to put me up in this tombstone, and that
About
basically
the
once after it was done, then I want to lay there in the ring, and then referee's going to stop the match. The referee's going to try to be looking to assist me, and he's going to be calling in the paramedics, and then they'll come in with a backboard and put on a neck brace, and then basically they're going to take me out in a backboard. So all that stuff was already pre-planned and already in place. And I mean, I'll say all that stuff went according to what it was supposed to be done. It's just that when Owen did what he did, instead of dropping to his knees, he dropped to his butt.
right.
Now, if you're like a big old Samoan, and I'm not trying here to pick out Samoans, but Samoans, they're big, thick, meaty people. If they were to drop to the butt doing the exact same move, they got a big enough butt on them, booty on them right there. They got these big old enormous thighs on them right there to where you're not gonna touch.
Right.
So a Samoan, a statured build athlete would have been no problem if they would have dropped their butt doing something like that, and you would come out of that safely. But Owen's not built like that, and so when I hit, man, boom, I took full impact on the top of my head, and then literally I felt the bolt of lightning shoot down my spine of my back, but then also I felt it shoot down my leg. So now I'm trying to stay in character as I'm
Oh
laying
boy.
there. But okay, as I'm laying there, I'm like, do I feel my fingers? Can I move them? I'm actually trying to move them without drawing any attention. And I could see my hands, but can I see my feet? I think I might be moving them, but am I moving them? I don't know. So as I'm laying there trying to stay in character, but then Owen knew that he screwed up too. So he whispers in a low tone. So again, not to draw any attention, he's like, he reaches down and grabs my hand, and he goes, "If you're okay, squeeze my hand." Well, I did not squeeze his hand because I don't know if I'm okay.
Right. Right.
Just
First
because
time to say.
I might be able to see my fingers doesn't mean I'm okay yet. So
Right.
again, they come in, backboard, put the neck brace on, and they strap me on in, slide me on out, and that's how they take me out of the arena. And the moment that they got me past the curtain, that is when I got off the backboard. I just kind of like set up, came off on the side, and started, just basically trying to see, do I have legs underneath me here still?
Okay.
And that's when Owen came up to me and he's like, "Why did you squeeze my hand?" And that's when my cheese slipped off the cracker there, Frank, because
Oh boy.
that's when I grabbed him by the shirt, and I'm like going, "Why did you drop me on my head for real? You, Owen Hart, son of Stu Hart, part of the dungeon crew. You of all people should know how to do that move and to do that move correctly." And I was Frank. I can't even I can't tell you how livid I was. I mean, I'm talking to you in a very calm tone here right now, but I was livid. I was livid to the point that I'm finger thumping him. I said, if I should ever have you in that ring again, I will destroy you. Again, I was angry, and did I mean it at the time? Yes, I did. I mean, even as I say it now, even though Owen Hart, rest in peace, because it was a tragic thing that happened to him, I was royally pissed at him for what he did, because I could have been a paraplegic, I could have been a quadriplegic, because there have been other athletes that this has happened to. Look at Draws. Again,
Yes. Yes.
I'm just using him as one example here right now. You had boy, what am I drawing? Steve Austin.
Stone Cold. I was about to
Yeah,
get to that.
he
He called you, right?
yes, he calls me out of the blue again. Other than, I mean, Steve and I, we pass in the halls, might just recognize each other, and he calls me up out of the blue on my cell phone. I'm thinking, well, I'm thinking, how'd you get my number? I mean, I figured he probably knows one of the other wrestlers that did have my number, and he calls me up and he's like, hey Dan, he goes, I know we didn't really chat that much when we're both working with Vince there. He said, but you had your thing to do, I had my thing to do. He said, but one of his friends showed him that match. And it wasn't until like quite some time afterwards, I think like a couple years. But he calls me up out of the blue and says, "Are you okay?" He said, Owen, again, Steve was being a little blunt. He says, Owen fucked up. I said, yes, he did. He says, "Are you okay?" I said, well, yeah. I tried to use a little bit of comedy there. I go, mentally and physically, you know. And he got a kick out of that. And I just said that, and I told him the same story I told you. I said, I felt the bolt of lightning run down my spine, run down my leg. And as I laid there, I'm trying to stay in character and just trying to see, can I see my fingers moving at all without trying to bring any attention to myself? And do I feel my toes moving? And it wasn't until, they got me behind the curtain that I did get up off the backboard and I was able to walk around. And that's when Owen came up to me, and the rest of the story you know already. So I was pissed. I was pissed because Steve himself had to have surgery on his
Yes.
neck.
Yes.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that might have been one of those injuries. It might have been the injury that ended his career.
Yeah. It was a continuous. It was good. It was continuous injury that
Yeah,
kept on coming. Yes. 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 Yep. Um. Now the
that's
thing is,
I always tell people that a lot of people say, well, especially a lot of my guys that do MMA or they do amateur wrestling, they're like, why do you do that fake stuff? I go, don't say fake. I said, yeah, there's a program and there's these monthly pay-per-views, but professional wrestlers are some of the most incredible athletes doing some of the most incredible athletic maneuvers without the aid of a safety net. When you look at these flips off the top rope, climbing up on ladders. I mean, you'll never see me up on the ladder, just like you'll never see me climbing up on the top rope and trying to do a moonsault or anything of that nature, or doing these other, what I refer to as leaps.
icebox.
Well, leaps of faith is what I refer to, because you're hoping, you're praying to God that your partner is there to catch you, because if you do a moonsault or one of these leaps off that turnbuckle and they're standing out on that concrete floor, they literally have to run up there. Yeah, you're going to hit them with a crossbody type situation so that they're taking your impact, trying to slow you down. They're still going to take an impact also on concrete, or maybe concrete that has a little 1-inch mat on it. And I go, how many people, how many stuntmen would even do something like that without all the protective gear? So it's like professional wrestlers should get a lot more credit for what they do. It is also that industry that the nature of the beast is you are going to get hurt. Because there's no 401k program with professional wrestling. Yeah. There's not really health benefits with professional wrestling. So you have to be savvy to save your money, to invest your money, because if you get hurt and you're done, what are you going to do, Frank? What are you going to do? Right. And that's where, yeah, I mean, to me, it's like Vince is talking out both sides of his mouth when he's like going, because he'll have these rehab programs that he finds out that you're strung out on some drugs. He'll put you in this little rehab program, dry you on out. But then Vince himself will simply say, you can't be on this, this, and this. And yet, it's like a double standard. If he wants the freaks, he wants the monsters. And even himself is on the sauce. So it's kind of like, do as I say and not as I do. It's like going, that's kind of the sad part, that you have the boss, the leader, and again, Vince Senior. There's a Vince Senior, and then there's Vince Junior. So I mean, there's a couple different generations of the wrestling business has been in the McMahon family for some time now, and you got to realize Vince Junior right now is in his 70s, or is it in his 80s?
80s, yeah. Because when he made Fitness magazine, he was 65 or 60 something.
Yeah,
when he was on the Fitness.
Oh yeah, yeah. And tell me that was natural there. Tell me that was natural there, Frank. Come on, tell me that was natural. Yeah. Okay. I got some swampland. You might want to sell. I might want to sell you then too. Again, Frank. I'm not poking fun. I live in a real world. Okay, that's why I live in a real world. That is a world of so much fantasy that can and will happen. And again, I just try to tell, because I answered a few emails even earlier today from young men that want to go in, they want to be a professional wrestler, because there's a cherished memory of them with their own father or both parents watching professional wrestling. And most of the time it's that father-son combination, and they enjoy that memory, and now they want to see if they could go live it. And, they just don't realize how hard it is to get into that industry. And there's only a few guys that are going to make any real money. And when you look at how many people are trying to get into it, and only a few people are going to make any real money. And even then, those people that made the real money, they got hurt also.
Yep.
And they had to take time off at different times because of their injuries. So, no one is invincible to any of that country. So again, it's a strange industry. It's a tough industry, and just living on the road. I'd wake up in the morning, rubbing the sleep out of my eyes, and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, I'm in another hotel, and I had to go look over. I had to go and look over to see my planner to find out where am I at and what is my function tonight.
Gotcha. So, okay, to finish off the Owen Hart situation. So you guys never ran across each other, because it was noted that he never apologized to Stone Cold. Stone Cold always used to say he never apologized for what he did. Did he ever apologize to you? And did you guys ever ran across each other? Like
No.
I know you had a short program with him in the ring as far as an interview. that you did? Like you came with the neck brace, and he came out saying something to the effect, it ended off with him clotheslining you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and after
Well,
that,
again,
there was nothing.
that was okay, I'll say during that time era for me, that was kind of interesting because I had a very unique contract with the WWF at the time. I was with it when it went from one to the other, and it I could work for other companies. I was already working for the NWA at the time, and so NWA tried to put me underneath a full time contract. I go, what if I have a free weekend? Are you going to pay me to sit home? And so again, I just no, but I always told him, I said, I will always protect my image. I'm not going to lay down for just nobody. I'm not going to let someone beat me in the process. Because again, you look at a guy, I was a shooter first that became a professional wrestler. Do you think I'm going to let some bozo just simply just roll me over out there? I don't think so. So
Um,
but I would always, but again, I already knew ahead of time. So that if you, Frank, if you were in contact me and said, Dan, we want you to come in and do a format or a match with so, I go, okay, I have no problem with that. What are you looking for, Mr. Promoter? If he wants me to put someone over, I go, I cannot do that. I work for I am the current NWA champion. I am also working with the WWE. I said, I cannot do that. I have to keep myself looking strong, and because, but you'd be surprised how many workers would simply just, it's a great payday. They only see that, they see that short sight. They just see, gosh, I could make X amount of dollars this coming weekend. I could really use X amount of dollars because most
mhm,
professional wrestlers are not good at saving money, investing money, and knowing that there is going to be a rainy day somewhere in your future. And you need to know that you have enough savings that you can weather the storm.
mhm. And plus, too, when you every time you take those type of bookings, you actually devaluing yourself, and then now the next time they bring you back is for less money, and then less money, and then less money. It just goes down. It's funny you mentioned that you wouldn't put somebody over. That's kind of like the old school mentality. I remember the Iron Sheik used to say that he would not put Iron Sheik, and I believe Bob Backlund were the same way back in the days. They said that they would not put anybody over that couldn't beat them up in real life. And I was like, wow. He said, if
Yeah,
you can't beat me up in real life, I'm not going to put you over as far as in the match. So, which made a lot of sense to me. It made a lot of sense to me because it
yeah,
was all about that image and that reality you want to uphold, stuff like that.
yeah.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Anything with Haku? Haku, I've heard a lot of stories about Haku being one of the tough men in the business as far as away as in the ring and especially away from the ring. Do you have any Haku stories? Any
I mean,
run-in with Haku?
no, other than the fact that I always got along really well with the Samoans, and whenever would see Haku, I always kind of went out of my way to go over there and shake his hand because again, he was one of these guys that was always kind of, I'll say, kind of quiet and watching stuff like that. But you could sense something about him that he is, he's watching the dynamic, same way that I was. I would always be quiet and I'd sit back and I'm watching all the locker room dynamics kind of playing themselves out. It's like watching a soap opera, okay? In a lot of ways. You got these people that are over here and over there. It's like going, I'm not in this clique, I'm not in that clique. I'm kind of running solo in my own little clique here right now. But I'll just say that I always got along with Haku just fine, and even now when I see him at various autograph signings stuff like that, again I will go out of my way if I know I'll go out of my way to shake his hand, give him a big old hug or something like that because again it just I think it's just kind of like one of those mutual type of respects for each other. That's all.
Got you, got you, got you. I know we was talking about Vince McMahon and the McMahon family. You know he has a documentary out on Netflix. Uh, what was your thoughts about that? If you've seen it or if you heard about it,
Um,
it's pretty much covering his whole
yeah,
life story and the recent allegations. that was
No, I
brought on him?
no, I have not seen all no, no. I and it's I'm I don't get a chance really to watch too many things in full access here right now. I mean, it's I'll say when I get back up to Arizona, I might actually be able to watch a movie here or there, but it's
Mhm.
I'm here I'm here in Coldwater, Michigan right now. I'm here in my training facility, and I'm trying to get it prepped in. I've got a guest coming in this coming Wednesday, but then I have some other really cool things that are in developing type stages that I don't want to jinx it here yet because I'm dealing with a couple of different countries
Got you.
that have interest in mixed martial arts.
Nice.
But then
Nice.
I said that well again I have a very unique facility that was way ahead of its time at its time because I bought this place back in 1992 and didn't even start my first career was professional wrestling. And I started that in 1992 because when I moved here for this job that a young father of a couple of children at that time wanted to hear, the type of salary it was to be, and all these things that come down the road with it, with advancements and things of that nature. And I'm like, well, how long do I have to think about this? He says, 2 weeks. And in 2 weeks, Frank, I sold a home. I bought a home. I bought a home based upon the salary I was being promised. Went to
Oh wow.
work, and at the end of the first week, I did not have a job.
Oh wow.
I was like, what am I going to do? And then I go, well, first off, I see Tough Man coming up this coming weekend. Did I train for it? No. First prize was $1,000. I needed $1,000. Frank, I needed $1,000 to meet my mortgage payment and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
To keep my
Wow.
again, that's where my my wife and my kids did not know the pressures I had. I
Right.
didn't want them to know.
Of
I'm
course, that's your job to endure.
I'm the man. Okay.
Right.
I'm the man. Okay. No
Yep.
distinction. I checked here. I pulled my pants out earlier. I'm the man. Okay. I'm the man, and I had to provide. I had to keep a roof over my kids' heads, and I had to keep food on the table. They're children. They don't have to be put to this grief. Somehow I'll figure this out. I don't know how, but somehow I'll figure this
Sure.
out. And that literally, even as I say this to you, Frank, I can think of the emotions I had at that time and how much hate I had in me for people that screwed me over. And even as I think about that now, it's one of the same things. It's easy for me to do emails. It's easy for me to do postings. It's easy for me to keep moving on because it's what I am so accustomed to doing. I'm good at my craft. I'm good at teaching. I'm good at speaking. I can make a difference. I'll tell people I can make a difference. All I can do is watch three of your matches. I'll never remember your name, but I will know you better than you know yourself. I'll know what you're good at. I'll know what you're bad at, and I can come up with game plans for you. Again, as a MMA competitor or as a submission grappler, but then also, well, can I help you become a professional wrestler? Yes, but I'm not going to teach you how to do a moonsault. I've got the crash pad stuff like that. If that's what you want to do, whoever I have in my classroom that is good at doing moonsaults, they'll do it. I'm not a flyer. I'm not going to try to teach you to be a flyer. Dan Severn doesn't do a flying school, but if there's some,
Grounded.
but if there's someone in the class that is good at doing moonsaults, I have the rings and I have the crash pads.
Right.
So I have all the equipment there so that if things do go wrong, you're going to be protected as best as possible. So,
Right.
and you have to earn the privilege to actually even get in that rings. You will start off on wrestle mats, kind of like almost like a Stu Hart type dungeon. You will learn how to wrestle. The marquee says professional wrestling. Give me a little bit of wrestling, not the same old whip you in the ropes, clothesline you. Okay, I'm gonna whip you into the turnbuckle, and I'm going to, come on out. And no, there's going to be this tie up, go behind, pick you up, put you on down, do a little sit out, turn in, do a little sit out, turn out, stand on up, get hands, do a little Granby roll. I mean, there's all kinds of things you could do, and people will be like, going, "Oh my God, what are they doing out there? I think they're wrestling. Oh my God, what did we come here for? Professional wrestling. Oh wow."
Well, okay. Well, rewinding back to my original, I know we went off a little bit of a tangent, but the reason I had brought up the whole Vince McMahon thing is because the allegations, as far as that he got caught up in, that caused him ultimately to step down from the business. And I guess now his son and his daughter, they're running the show. So I wanted to know the reason I brought that up. Did you ever see anything, any type of um, weird, funny business type thing as far as while you was there during your time there with Vince McMahon, the way he treated people, any type of questionable type of
You
situation
know,
with
I
him?
no, I mean, he always, you could tell that Vince regaled in being the heel role. He when he would walk down that the way he strutted stuff like that down, he just had that little flair about him, the arrogance stuff like that, and people loved it. Like when if he did something like that, then he was trying to rub a little salt into say a Stone Cold Steve Austin's wound, and knowing that Steve's gonna hit with the stunner afterwards. I mean, or the Rock's gonna do
Right.
this, or the Undertaker's gonna do that. I mean, it was always kind of cool to see Vince taking on a role in his own company, but allowing the various wrestling stars to get something over on him because it's going to make the people pop. And
Right.
it also helps to get you over as your character, stuff like that, with the people, and the fact that he put the man in his place there because Vince was the man, and then he owed your job, and are you going to be fired or whatever? And because I mean those are always the allegations of this, allegations of that, So
Right.
but and then there's other times where I mean on that same day, again, of the more recent time allegations, Vince always he played a perfect heel type sleazy promoter in a sense that when he had a beautiful female wrestler out there,
Mhm.
he played the sleazy promoter role just as well. But again,
Gotcha. Gotcha.
to me, all I saw was the acting that took place out in the public eye. I didn't see nothing. I didn't see
Okay.
nothing behind closed doors. Okay.
And another person I want to ask you about is Pat Patterson. A lot of people had things to say about Pat Patterson. Some positive, a lot of negatives as far as him, let's just say for you to get in the business and meeting with Pat Patterson, that was definitely funny business as a male
Well,
wrestler.
I mean, there was I'll say some comedic type lines that were saying. I learned quickly about the industry is like, watch out for who is standing behind and pushing you to the top. Yes, yes. So I'll leave it sort of like that. I mean, in any corporation, you're going to have people that are gay, that are uh, lesbian, that are homosexual. I mean, no matter what company you go to. But to me, as I was looking at like, is your job affecting your performance at work? What you do in your private life, don't care. Don't care at all. But I always tell people, it's like, if I'm sitting in my house though, and you're doing naked cartwheels in the front yard, I'm calling the cops. But if you're in your backyard and I don't have to see that shit, I don't care. All right? Just do your naked cartwheels in your backyard, not the front yard. Because, like I said to Frank, I don't want to see that shit. Okay.
Gotcha. 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 Okay.
I guess
Okay.
I think any viewer that watches this segment, I hopefully they understand. Because if they don't, oh my God, I got some swampland. I'd like to sell them then. Okay, because they're pretty doggone
Listen,
gullible.
you'd be surprised. We're living in a sensitive world, as you and I already know. So
Oh, well, Frank,
yeah,
I think some people will probably turn it off the moment I said that I identified as being a man.
yep, yep, yep. There you go. There you go. Oh man. Well,
But again, I sleep well at night, Frank. I have a good conscience. I don't worry about nothing. Those are the people that will be worried about. Okay, what are my nouns or my pronouns or my verbs, my adverbs? I go, oh, am I an exclamation mark? Am I a question mark? I don't know. I don't know. Oh yeah, it's. I don't have those little frets of this world here right now. I'm okay.
gotcha. There you go. Oh man, listen, it's been wonderful having you
I,
again.
Frank, I look this way. I should be my alarm clock going off. The alarm clock, I said that little cockadoodle doo, waking up in the morning, like going, taking care of business, trying to wake up, rub to sleep on the eyes, because what's Dan Severn got to do today? He's got to take care of business. Got to take care of business.
Hey, listen, there you go. There you go. There you go. So listen, on behalf of Don Devine, this has been another Coliseum Culture Legend Insider with none other than Dan the B7. Dan, it's been great having you once again.
Wonderful times here right now. Good stuff there. Really enjoyed it there tonight.
All right. So long, man.
Take care.